Have you ever sat in a room after she left silent hollow, holding the echo of her laughter like a ghost that won't let go? You did everything they told you. You listened, you cared, you gave her your time, your heart, your soul, and yet one day she just slipped away. No rage, no goodbye, just silence. And that smile she posted on Instagram 2 days later, not meant for you. You scroll, you shrink, you wonder, was I not enough? But what if the answer isn't that you weren't enough? What if you were simply not yourself? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's what most men call love today. Fate, chance, chemistry, timing. But underneath all that, buried like old bones in the psyche, is the forgotten truth. You're not falling in love with her. You're colliding with the repressed fragments of yourself. Every woman who seduced you, broke you, confused you, or walked away, they weren't just lovers, they were mirrors. And most men, they spend their lives smashing mirrors instead of looking in them. You see, Socrates was not afraid of women. He was afraid of illusion. And what is more illusory than the feminine chaos we try to tame with logic texts and gifts? He married Xanthep, the most infamous wife in philosophy, not because he loved drama, but because he understood what most men don't: the path to wisdom passes through the wild. Jung called it Anima, the feminine within every man. She is not soft, she is not sweet. She is storm and seduction. She is chaos. And until you learn to face her not in a woman, but within your own soul, every relationship will become a battlefield where your ego goes to die. Do you remember the first time a woman made you feel alive? That magnetic pull in your chest, that sensation that she sees me, that wasn't her. That was you awakening. She was the trigger, not the truth. Jung said the feminine image inside us is shaped by our mother, our first heartbreak, every rejection, every gaze we misread. When you seek her approval, what you're really begging for is integration. But the anima doesn't reward begging. She devours the weak to test the strong. So you try to be good, gentle, understanding. But what if being good is a mask, a persona, Jung's word for the social mask we wear to be accepted? You become the nice guy, the listener, the supporter. You shrink your fire into a candle so it doesn't burn her. But here's the bitter truth: she doesn't want a candle. She wants a lighthouse. Someone who doesn't move with her moods, but stands in something deeper, something ancient, something terrifying to a boy, but irresistible to a man. You wonder why she forgot you, why she stopped texting, why she started calling someone else home. And yet the whole time you were trying to be her home. But no woman wants to live inside a man who has no walls. When you collapse into her world, you disappear. And when she cannot feel you, she cannot respect you. And without respect, there is no love, only memory. So what does a man do? He goes in, not into her, but into the shadows of his psyche. He faces the anima, not as goddess, but as guide. She is rage. She is seduction. She is the ache you feel when you lie in bed after she blocks your number. She's not punishing you. She's waking you up, waking you from the illusion that love is about being chosen. No, love is about becoming so rooted in your purpose, so anchored in truth, that even if she walks away, you do not collapse. Because then, and only then, will you attract not a woman who completes you, but one who mirrors the fire you carry. And if she doesn't come, you burn anyway. She walks into your life like a promise, a cure to the ache you've been carrying in your chest since you were 10 and decided that silence was safer than truth. And at first, it works. She laughs at your jokes. She tells you you're different. She looks at you like you matter. And something ancient in you begins to believe again. Maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this is it. So you lean in. You give more. You text first. You rearrange your plans. You soften the edges of your truth so it fits her expectations. You call it love. But it's not love. It's longing. It's the child in you begging not to be left. Carl Jung would call this a possession when the ego becomes enslaved to the unconscious, when the man you were collapses into a script you didn't even write. You're no longer you. You're what you think she wants. You become agreeable, attentive, even empathetic to a fault. But here's the paradox. The more you vanish into her reality, the more invisible you become. Women don't leave men because they're too much. They leave because they're too little of themselves. Because they can feel when a man's soul is hollowed out by the need to please. The feminine is drawn to presence, not the kind you fake with eye contact and active listening, but the kind that's built in solitude and silence and suffering. The kind that emerges when a man walks through hell and doesn't ask to be rescued. That presence, Jung said, is forged by confrontation with the shadow. The part of yourself you've disowned, your rage, your lust, your power, your hunger. You've been taught to suppress it, to neuter yourself for peace. But peace without power is submission. And submission breeds resentment. She feels it. She pulls away. And you spiral. You ask, what did I do wrong? The question itself is the problem. Because it's not about doing. It's about being. You can't fix this by reading more books, sending better texts, or buying nicer dinners. You fix it by burning the script, by stepping out of the persona and into the chaos you've been running from, by staring into the mirror and asking, what part of me have I killed just to be liked? There is no intimacy without polarity, and there is no polarity without boundaries. A woman cannot trust a man who cannot hold his ground. She cannot follow someone who follows her. She cannot desire someone she can predict. You think giving her your heart will earn her soul? But love is not a transaction. It's an initiation. She wants to feel your weight, not the weight of your trauma or your guilt, but the weight of your truth, your spine, your center. That's what she tests when she pushes you, not to torment you, but to find out, is he real? Or is he just performing masculinity to get my attention? Jung said that men must go inward, not to escape the world, but to meet it more truthfully. Your father never taught you this. Your teachers didn't know. Society shames it. But deep down, you've always felt it, that ache that there is more to being a man than pleasing, chasing, adapting. You are not here to orbit around her. You are here to stand so firmly in your truth that she orbits you not in submission, but in reverence. Let me tell you something brutal. She doesn't remember the man who begged for closure. She remembers the man who walked away with dignity. She remembers the man who saw her chaos and didn't flinch, who could hold it all and still remain himself. That's not arrogance. That's integration. When the anima and the shadow meet, you stop chasing love and start embodying it. Not the kind that needs to be received, but the kind that is. And when you become that truly, that something shifts. You no longer panic when she pulls away. You no longer overthink every message. You stop performing. You stop shrinking. You become still, like a mountain, like truth. And she feels it in her chest, in her bones, even if she doesn't know why, even if she leaves. Because women don't just love men who understand them. They love men who understand themselves more. The man who doesn't lose himself in her story, but who writes his own and invites her into it. The man who can say, "This is who I am," and mean it. Not in rebellion, but in reverence. Jung didn't believe in becoming perfect. He believed in becoming whole. And you don't become whole by cutting parts of yourself off. You do it by owning them, integrating them, loving the warrior in you, the king, the poet, the predator, the protector. Because when those parts are disowned, they don't disappear. They leak. They sabotage. They whisper doubts into your gut. But when they're owned, they become presence, power, polarity. So if you're tired of feeling disposable, forgettable, invisible, stop asking what women want. Start asking, who am I without the need to be wanted? She once told you, I want someone who listens. So you did. You listened so closely, you forgot to speak. You absorbed her storms, her doubts, her stories, and gave her nothing of your own. And at first, she smiled. She leaned in. She thanked you. But slowly something shifted. The warmth turned to silence. The texts slowed. Her eyes wandered. You thought you had done everything right, but Jung would say, you didn't give her too little. You gave her too much of what wasn't real. You see, the feminine doesn't crave performance. She craves presence. And presence isn't about reacting to her. It's about responding from your center. Most men don't have a center. They have a collection of habits, approvals, and fear-shaped decisions pretending to be a personality. So when she steps back, when she tests, when she challenges you, you collapse, you question yourself, you over-explain, you beg. And she sees it. Not with hatred, not even with judgment. She just feels something ancient fall apart. The mystery dies. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, the sacred process of becoming whole. You stop living in fragments. You stop outsourcing your soul to what others think. You stop needing her to reflect your worth because you've gone into the underworld of your psyche and met the dragon, your shadow, your unloved self, that part of you that raged when she left, that wanted to burn it all down, that whispered, you're nothing without her. Most men run from him, but you must invite him in. The man who integrates his shadow doesn't need to dominate her. He doesn't suppress her chaos. He honors it while staying rooted in his own. That's what creates polarity, not control, not manipulation, but two sovereign forces choosing to meet, not out of need, but out of truth. And from that meeting, something sacred arises: respect, not the kind earned by pleasing, but the kind born of alignment. Let me tell you a secret. The men who leave the deepest mark on a woman's psyche are not the ones who gave her everything. They're the ones who withheld nothing of themselves, their light, their darkness, their silence, their flame. These men didn't chase affection. They held tension. They created depth. They didn't apologize for their intensity. They invited her into it. And she remembered them. Years later, in dreams, in songs, in the quiet ache between new lovers who just don't make her feel the same. But here's the trap. The moment you begin to perform this, you've already lost it. Because women feel the difference between truth and tactic, between embodied presence and artificial posture. She may not be able to explain it, but her body will. Her distance will. Her boredom will. That's the feminine oracle. You can't lie to it. You can't hack it. You can only meet it. Jung believed that love is not about merging. It's about mirroring. She's not here to complete you. She's here to reflect what you haven't yet integrated. If you feel unworthy around her, that's your invitation. If you feel the need to prove to please, to beg, that's not her fault. That's your psyche calling you home. And until you answer it, Every woman you meet will be a repeat of the last. Different name, same ache. So what does it mean to become that man? The man who isn't remembered for his charm, but for his clarity. It starts in silence, in stillness, in staring into the mirror and admitting, I don't know who I am without the chase. Then you stop chasing. You sit, you breathe, you let the loneliness carve you open until the boy who needed to be loved gives way to the man who is love. Not as a performance, not as a strategy, but as a state of being. And when you walk into a room, you no longer ask, will she see me? You see yourself, fully, without shame, without apology. And that radiates. Not the glow of a desperate man trying to be chosen, but the fire of someone who already has. And in that fire, some women will flee. They will call you cold, harsh, detached. Let them. They're not ready. But a few, the rare few, they will stand still. They will feel it. The echo of a truth they've buried, a power they've craved but never found. And maybe, just maybe, they'll rise. Because that's what the feminine truly wants. Not control, not comfort, not performance. She wants a mirror of her own fire. A man not afraid of her chaos because he's already made peace with his own. You think your silence will drive her away? You think if you don't explain yourself, justify your mood, prove you care, she'll assume the worst. But here's what Jung understood, and what modern men forget. Silence is not absence. Silence is depth. It is the place beneath reaction, beneath noise, beneath persona, where the real man lives. And only from that place can you truly connect. Most men speak to be heard. The rare few speak from stillness. And women, intuitive, emotional, instinct-driven, can feel the difference. She will test that silence. She might accuse you of being distant, cold, arrogant. Not because she wants to wound you, but because she wants to feel if anything shakes you. The feminine is not cruel by nature, but she is instinctual. And instinct does not reward fragility. She doesn't want you to collapse into her. She wants to feel if you can hold both of you, her fire and your own. If you fold under the weight of her emotion, she cannot trust your strength. And if she cannot trust you, she cannot surrender, not to your words, not to your touch, not to your love. And yet, this isn't about winning her. This is about facing you. The parts of you that still believe love must be earned by self-erasure. The scripts you internalized from your childhood. Don't be too loud. Don't be too angry. Don't be too much. But what if too much was your gift? What if the intensity you've tried to silence is the very signal of your masculinity, not dominance, not control, but fire? The fire that warms the fire, that destroys illusion. Jung didn't separate love from suffering. He knew that the path to union, true union, meant confronting the unconscious, the unlived life, the unloved parts, the boy inside you who thought love meant sacrifice, submission, silence. But the man knows that love is not about disappearing. It's about expanding. He doesn't love her instead of himself. He loves her with himself, from the root, from the dark, from the place that doesn't flinch when she cries, yells, or pulls away. And here's what's wild. When you become that man, women change around you. Not because you manipulate them, but because your presence forces them to feel themselves, to meet their own unintegrated parts, their own illusions. And some won't like that. Some will run. But others, the ones who are ready to evolve, they'll stay. Not because they need you, but because they respect you. Because they know this is a man I cannot move. And in his stillness, I see myself more clearly. That is the power of polarity. That is what Socrates whispered through riddles. What Jung mapped through archetypes. That love, real love, is not soft. It is soul-making. It stretches. It scorches. It reveals. And in its most honest form, it frees. You are not here to chase love. You are here to become the kind of man love cannot ignore. Not because of your muscles, not because of your money, but because when you speak, your words land. When you touch, your energy grounds. When you leave, your memory echoes. Now I ask you not as a tactic, but as a mirror. When she left, who did you become? Did you become smaller? Did you become bitter? Did you stalk her new man's Instagram at 2 a.m., convincing yourself it was all her fault? Or did you go inward? Did you meet the boy in you who begged to be saved and sit with him? Did you stop asking why she left and start asking why you gave so much of yourself in the first place? That is the work. That is where Jung points us not to control women, not to decode their texts, but to become sovereign again. So the next time she pulls away, pauses, or challenges, you don't react. Observe. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, to apologize for your truth, pause, breathe, and ask, am I seeking connection, or am I seeking permission to exist? Because the man who seeks permission is never desired, only tolerated. But the man who embodies himself without apology, he is not just loved, he is remembered. So here you are, still standing, maybe bruised, maybe quieter than before, but something in you, something deep, has shifted. You're no longer looking for the trick, the line, the move that will make her stay. You're not trying to become what she wants. You're learning to become what you are. And that, Jung would say, is the beginning of everything. The moment you stop outsourcing your center, the moment you stop seeking salvation in someone else's gaze, you begin the descent into soul. It's not a straight path. It winds. It burns. It asks for everything. Because to truly individuate, to become whole, you must let go of who you think you need to be loved. You must face the fear that if you stop performing, no one will stay. And maybe they won't. But what remains will be real. And real is rare. Real is sacred. Most men never make it this far. They get lost in resentment, in porn, in people-pleasing, in dead marriages and digital masks. But you, if you've come this far, if you've listened with your spine as much as your ears, you already feel it. The fire, the hunger, the edge of something ancient waking up. Not rage, not revenge, but reclamation. You were never meant to be tamed. You were meant to be tempered by experience, by suffering, by confrontation with the unknown. And nowhere is the unknown more confronting than in a woman's heart. Because in her emotion, in her silence, in her wild unpredictability, she brings you to the edge of yourself, not to destroy you, but to reveal you. And if you've done the work, if you've looked into the chaos without flinching, then you don't just survive the test, you expand through it. That's why she pulls away when you chase. That's why she forgets you when you vanish into her. Not because she's cruel, but because nature demands tension, evolution demands polarity, and love, real gut-wrenching, soul-waking love, demands a man, not a fan, not a servant, not a ghost, but a man who stands where others kneel, who speaks what others bury, who leads where others apologize for existing. Now I ask you not rhetorically, but truthfully, when was the last time you stood completely in yourself, without fear, without filter, and let the world orbit you for once? Do you even remember what that feels like? If not good. Because now maybe for the first time you're awake. And if this message hits something in you, if you've lived this heartbreak, this disorientation, this strange hollow space where love used to be, then don't just nod and move on. Sit with it. Bleed with it. Rise from it. Because somewhere out there is a woman who doesn't need you to complete her, but to challenge her. Not by dominance, but by presence. And she will feel you before she sees you, but only if you stop asking to be seen. So now look inward, look honestly, and answer me this. In your last relationship, were you leading or were you just trying not to be left? Drop your answer in the comments, not for validation, but for reflection. You're not alone. But only the brave speak their truth. This isn't just a video, it's a reckoning. And maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of your return.